Hello, Resurrection. Today is August the 25th. I want to tell you a story that happened yesterday. So, one of my kids had a headache at school. And so she went downstairs to the nurse to see if she could take some Tylenol just for a headache. And she was immediately sent home. And we couldn't take her back to school until she had a negative COVID test. And I think that was, well, it might have been overkill. It might not have been overkill, but I went to pick her up, and what I was immediately struck by was the fact that everybody at her school, the nurse, the receptionist, everybody that I met in the process of going to pick her up, seemed scared of me. They did not know what I was going to be mad about, but they were sure that I was going to be mad. I was either going to be mad uh, because she was being sent home, or I was going to be mad because they're not requiring masks, or I was going to be mad because someone was wearing a mask, or they didn't know what my issue would be, but they were all pretty sure that I would have an issue. So we began the process. I didn't have an issue, but I think everybody else had had an issue that day. So we start to look for a COVID test. We had to have one to get her back in school. So we call her pediatrician's office, and I held for about an hour at the pediatrician's office, and I never got through to anybody, which I will admit was a little annoying to me, but it's not as annoying to me now after the rest of the day that I had, because I think they're doing the best they can right now. So I began calling around to the minute clinics and urgent care facilities just to see if I could get in for a test, and the answer was absolutely not. We're not only are we out of tests, but we've got a list that'll take us 3 days to get through if we do one every 3 minutes. One, my doctor's office actually told me that about getting her seen. So I began calling the pharmacies, and the pharmacies didn't have any openings. You get online to try to schedule an appointment, and nobody could do this. So the nurse said that a home test, a COVID home test, would be acceptable. She told me the criteria and how to do it. And so I start going to pharmacies looking for COVID home tests, and there are none. I think I'm telling you the truth when I say that there aren't any in Williamson County. I checked Walgreens and CVS and Walmart, and I called probably 10 places and went in another 4 or 5, and there just aren't any. So that was one thing that everybody had in common. But the other thing that everybody had in common is, no matter if I talked to somebody face to face, or if I talked to them on the phone, or whether we were emailing back and forth, everybody was gun shy. Everybody was leery. I saw no fewer than 10 people in my day yesterday throwing an absolute fit with people at the pharmacy or at the school or at the doctor's offices. Didn't matter. Everybody was on pins and needles, and a whole lot of people were being, as my grandmother would say, were just being ugly. So, I stopped and I looked at the people who were just trying to do their jobs, and they are short staffed. There are not enough people for jobs right now. Page High School and Page Middle School, they were sending kids home left and right, and they don't have a choice in that. That's not a decision that they make. Those decisions come from wherever they come from. I don't know. But they on the front lines are the ones who bore the brunt of people's rage about these things. Now, we were inconvenienced. I don't like to be inconvenienced. My family tells me that I am too impatient in situations like that. In grocery stores, and Walmart sends me right over the edge most of the time. But I felt convicted yesterday, um, with my lack of compassion for the folks who are just trying as hard as they can, just like I am, just like everybody else is. And something that I used to do a lot more often than I do now is wear my clerical collar around town. Now, of course, with all my COVID weight, you'd have to staple two collars together to get one around my neck right now. I'm working on that, by the way. So I was not in my collar. I was in my plain clothes. And you know what that collar does is we don't wear that collar to remind people who we are. We wear that collar to remind us who to remind us who we are. And I didn't have that on yesterday. And that collar does temper my impatience. It does temper my interactions with people. But I wonder why it does, because it shouldn't. It should not do that. What should temper my reactions is the fact that I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, is that Christ forgave me when I fell so terribly short, and that he died for me even though I did not deserve it. And I can say all I want to that I'm doing my best, but we all know that I'm not always doing my best. And being a follower of Jesus Christ means that we are held to a higher standard by the world, and that God doesn't think that's unfair at all. In fact, he seems to agree that we should hold ourselves to that same higher standard. So in your interactions this week, y'all show somebody some love. Show somebody some extra grace, whether you feel like they deserve it or not. And I hope that you will show extra grace to each other, and that somebody will show you some extra grace too. I don't ever want to be labeled as one of the people who has trouble showing compassion to others, because I have been shown so much compassion in my life, and I know that you have too. Y'all be good to each other. Y'all come to church. It's good for you. It really is. It's not optional for us. We have to be here to receive the body and blood of our Lord, because that may be the very grace that will allow us to get through the next week, to get through the next trying times, and to show that compassion. Y'all come to church, show each other some love. Remember that I love you, and I'll see you soon.